A good following.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got a limit of 99 if we include you and Lynn, so 14 to go.
It's a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest, you know, the scores going up.
Okay, I would start now, Linda.
Okay.
Okay, right. Shall I just introduce Linda?
I was going to introduce myself.
Okay, you introduce yourself.
But you can do it if you prefer. All right. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to my kitchen. For those who don't know me, my name is Linda Dangoor, and I was born in Iraq and left my native Baghdad at an early age, at the age of 10. I am an artist and a ceramicist by profession, but I'm also a passionate food lover. I love eating, I love cooking, and my interest in food is also historical. I like to read books about food, the history of food, the politics of food. And I also think of food not only as a vital nutrient, which of course it is, but also as a part of a culture, of a country and a people. It's a bit like a language. And probably for this reason, I wrote Flavors of Babylon, where I put down recipes of my family and also a Babylonian Jewish tradition, just to make a point that we were part of that country, part of that area, indigenous to that area since many thousands of years. Anyway, that said, I'm really delighted to be here. And today I'm going to show you how to cook the famous Iraqi dish called samak masgouf, or rather masgouf for short. Everybody knows when you say masgouf, it is that dish. So it is a fish dish that is traditionally cooked on the shores of the River Tigris and is now considered by a lot of people as the national dish of the country. Now, the fish that was used was an oily freshwater fish called shabut, a little bit like a carp. And the fish would be, of course, gutted and scaled and then butterflied. That means opened completely like a book or like butterfly wings, sort of like this. And then it would be seasoned in a marinade of different spices, turmeric as well, tamarind, other spices, with tomatoes on top sometimes. And it would be skewered on 2 sticks, which were then planted in the ground near an open fire, a brushwood fire. Brushwood is the small twigs of young trees. And as the fish would be cooking, the oil from the fish would start dripping on top of the wood, and it would send up a most fantastic aromatic smoke that would engulf the whole fish, giving it that very, very smoky flavor. Now, of course, I can't do that in my oven here, but you can do it if you have a barbecue. You can get as near as possible to the real masgouf recipe. If you do that, if you do it on a barbecue on a nice day, do remember to put some herbs on top of the coal or whatever it is that's making the fire. This way you're going to get the lovely aromas going into the fish. The smokiness will have a flavor, will have an aroma, which will be very nice. So, although I left Baghdad very young, I do remember the delicious aromas coming up, wafting up into our house, in fact, into the roof of our house, where we used to sleep in the summer. Our house was just on the border, just in front of the river, on the bank of the river Tigris. So the whole summer, there would be this fish aroma wafting up while we were lulling us to sleep. It was quite extraordinary. And what's even more extraordinary is I never had masgouf in Iraq. My first taste of masgouf was here, which is really quite contradictory. But anyway, I remember the smell, which was lovely. So anyway, let's get started. I'm going to go through the ingredients first. So there's going to be some turmeric. I've added smoked paprika. Because of the smokiness of that paprika, it might sort of conjure up the smokiness of the masgouf. Curry powder, a pinch of cayenne should you wish to have it a bit more spicy, some salt, and then lemon juice, olive oil, tamarind, tomato paste, and crushed garlic. So we will start by, I don't know who's doing it with me, so I'm going slowly because of that. We will start by mixing the dried spices first. So I'm putting in the turmeric. I think you can see everything. Then I'm going to add the paprika. Take that off. Then the curry. I'll put the salt in. Salt is quite important, actually. I'm not going to put cayenne. So, oh yes, I will put some cayenne. 1 second. This is cayenne that we actually grind ourselves, and it's quite fiery. There's a bit of cayenne. You really need just a pinch if you like spicy things. So you mix those like that. And now we're going to add the lemon juice. I'll get a bigger spoon. This is a bit small. Make sure that you mix it really well. After that, I shall put the tamarind. Now, if someone couldn't buy tamarind, you can put pomegranate molasses instead, or you can even put dried limes, which you can get from an Iranian shop. They all have the same sort of effect, which is kind of a tart effect, but different from lemons. And then I'm putting in the tomato paste. Now the garlic. And at the end, I'll put the oil. Now, what I usually do is I actually taste it to see if it needs anything else, if it needs more lemon juice or whatever. But what you can do as well, you can add the lemon juice after it's been cooked. When you serve, you just do a little squeeze of lemon on top. So, really, this is done. Now, we're going to put the fish. What I bought, I couldn't get a butterfly fish. I went to Waitrose and I went to another fishmonger, and he said they were not taught to do butterflying. So I had to get 2 fillets of sea bream, which is okay too. And I've done this recipe also with cod, and it works really, really well with it. Usually I marinate this for at least an hour, but it doesn't really matter tonight if you're making it with me, if you're cooking along with me. It doesn't matter. It will still taste nice, but you know, it's always nice to marinate for some time, at least an hour. So it doesn't look absolutely delicious at the moment. Can you see? I'll have to do this, otherwise you won't be able to see. And if anyone has any questions at this moment, you know, you can ask me. I am now putting some the shallots that have very finely chopped or sliced, really. I don't know if you can. Oh. I'll have to do. Is that okay? Can you see better?
Yep.
Yeah.
Darling, I got you.
I have to tilt it.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's fine, Linda. We can see.
Yeah, I can tilt it then. So I put the sliced shallot on top.
We have a question from Jay.
Yes.
Can we use onions instead of shallots?
You can put onions, yes. You can. I like shallots because they are a bit more perfumed, but of course you can. This is a very versatile recipe. You can do what you like with it as long as you keep the main ingredients. And because it's really a dry sort of, a dry dish, has no sauce, I put quite a bit of tomatoes so that I can get some kind of juice at the end.
You're using a mixture of thick slices and cherry tomatoes there, Linda?
This is what I had. Yes, you can do both. You can just put slices if you want. I happen to have quite a lot of cherry tomatoes. Frank went and bought loads. I thought I'd use some. But yeah, whatever. Tomato. I think cherry tomatoes look very nice too. So actually, this is it. And the za'atar, I don't put the za'atar now, and it's optional anyway. It's when it's cooked. So now I'm going to put it in the oven at 180 degrees for about 12 minutes. If you have a piece of cod or a piece of haddock, it might be 15 minutes. I don't know, it depends on the thickness. So what I do is I get my timer. So I'm putting it at 12 minutes and we'll see. Right, so it's going in. Right, now this dish, I serve it usually.
Yep, that's better. Can see your face.
I serve it usually with a tomato salad and something soft like mashed potato or mashed carrots. I find that if I do a rice with it, because it's a dry dish, there isn't any sauce for the rice. that's why sometimes I put quite a lot of tomatoes in case, you know, we feel like having rice, and then the tomatoes will yield a little bit of sauce.
Mhm.
So this is the dish.
Right.
And during this, just before we started, I actually made a salad and actually made some rice and also some potato mash, so that afterwards I will place it when it comes out, and then you can see what it looks like.
Yeah. Can I ask you, Linda, how do you make your rice? Because everyone has a slightly different method.
There's so many different ways and different, you know, different rice. You can put a bit of oil in the pan and then put the rice raw and kind of coat it, then put water on top, and when it boils, then you just cover it and on very low heat, and so it's by absorption. There is another way, which is more the Iranian way. You actually boil the rice like it's pasta for about 5-6 minutes, and then you take the water out, you sieve it, and you put it back in the pot, and with all sorts of things like some herbs or some oil or some turmeric or some saffron, and then it, on very low heat, it cooks by steaming. So there's so many different ways that.
That's fantastic. Question from
Nicest
Vivian.
thing is you always end up.
Yes.
Sorry.
A question from Vivian. Can you repeat what temperature you put the fish in the oven?
Yeah, 180 degrees Celsius.
Right.
On fan.
Fan oven. Right. Fan. Okay. Put it on fan. I suppose most ovens nowadays do have fans.
Yeah, if it's not fan, then it would be higher. If it's just, it would be about maybe 190 or 200 oven.
Right. And then another question from Bethany Al-Hadef, couscous or bulgur?
What, to go with it?
Yes. Would that go with it?
It's the same as rice. It's dry, so they both need some kind of sauce. But the tradition in Iraq is rice. We don't have couscous. We do have burghul, but if you manage to get some kind of sauce from the tomatoes, then I would go for either, yes. If you don't want to do any rice or you don't want any mashed potatoes, yes. So,
yeah, Linda, I was going to ask you, what are your earliest memories of Iraq? I mean, do you have any memories of Iraq? I mean, you were 10 when you left.
Yes, but we used to live, I was going to say in a compound. It wasn't, it was a big house. We used to live with my grandparents and also my cousins, and my aunts and great aunts. So it was a very, very busy household. And that was our world. That was my world. That and the view of the Tigris River. So I think my memories would be really sensory ones. Like the garden always had the most wonderful perfume. The food had different aromas. It would be, yeah, it would be sensory ones. We never went out on our own. We went out sometimes with my parents in a boat, to have a little boat trip on the Tigris River. I do remember though, picnics, family picnics, on these wonderful, wonderful summer days, on little islands that would pop up in the summer when the water level goes down. You get these little islands that pop up, and people go and picnic on them in the middle of the river. And I always remember those with great affection. And in fact, in fact, food does, food does trigger a lot of buried memories as well, just by the smell. Let's say rosewater reminds me of grandmothers. They all smelt of rosewater.
Is that because they put it on their faces?
Yeah, they would go like this, and like that. So I was
yeah. So
it's there were many. I mean, we were self-sufficient because I was with my cousins and my brothers, so we didn't need, if you like, to be more social with other people. And so it was quite a paradise, I would say, except when the revolution happened. And I remember it very, very well because we were sleeping on the roof. And as I said, our house was on the border, on the bank of the River Tigris. And the other side, we were facing the royal palace. And I remember waking up, I was 8 or 7. I was eight and a half or something like that. Anyway, and woke up because of a lot of noise, and saw the palace in flames, absolutely in flames. So that I remember vividly, and I remember after that, after 1 year, we left. But otherwise, I do have wonderful memories of the garden, of the food.
Yeah.
And for the immigrant that I am, really, I think food has another meaning because it sort of anchors me to my roots, the food of my childhood. And I should think it does to everybody who has left his country. It anchors me to a community that's no longer there. But
in fact, Vivian Levy says, your evocation of different memories from food reminds her of the Madeleine in Proust.
Well, yes. If you think about what Proust did, it was amazing because it was the beginning of the 20th century, and it was when Freud was really having his heyday. And so that kind of connection between something of the past happening as you were eating something was quite new and quite revolutionary. It was something exciting, really. And I suppose everybody would now calls it the Proustian moment,
Right, absolutely. And Jay has a question. He says, is there a Jewish way of cooking masgouf and an Arabic or Muslim way? Or are they the same?
No, they're the same. They're the same. It's just fish with different, with different spices. And anyway,
would there have been a variation in the spices they used, would you say?
Well, I think it was a street food. It's not something that the Jews did at home. It was something that you encountered when you walked on the riverside. It's a bit like in Spain now when you go on the seaside and you have these sardines that are impaled as well, and being cooked in exactly the same way. And I don't think anybody does that at home. They're impaled standing up vertically. Yeah. And so it's an Iraqi dish that a lot of people enjoyed. It's not Jewish, it's not Muslim, it's not anything, it's Iraq.
Iraq. And
Yeah.
Maurice de Picciotto asked, what kind of barbecue did you have at your picnics, and did you have meat?
Yes, we did.
Sitting on your islands?
I think we did, because we used to have somebody, I remember somebody going like this, you know, so obviously he was trying to make the fire light up even more. I think we did. To be honest, we enjoyed playing with the sand and swimming. I don't remember the food. I remember sandwiches, my mother making sandwiches. And we did have a sort of barbecue. We did, but I don't remember it very well. So this I can't relate unless I invent it. But no, I don't. I don't. But,
and tell me, when you came to England, did you get culture shock? And certainly, how did you find the food when you came to England?
Well, you know, we were excited. First of all, we had these Wellington boots that we never wore. I don't know why we had them. So we were excited that for the first time we're going to wear Wellington boots because it was raining the whole time. And coming from a wonderful place, a bountiful place where seasonal food was so luscious and wonderful, we actually fell in love with all the processed foods. So I remember we loved all the sweets, the gobstoppers, the licorice, all sorts. We loved all the tin foods, the peaches in tins and syrup. I mean, we loved that with cream. We also we were suckers for television because we never had TV before. And so all the advertisements, you know, we believed. So we would buy these packets of a cake mix. All you had to do was add water, and there you go. You know, after about 5 minutes, you had the most wonderful so-called cake. You know, so we bought into every single thing the advertisers sold us. But after about a year, that finished. But it is extraordinary that we really love the difference. We love the processed food because it was different. Now I think the bell has gone, and I just want to see. Yeah, I think it can do with a little bit more. You know, it just depends on the thickness, so a little bit more. But so really, for me, food, certain recipes, certain ingredients have become like the embodiment of the community we left behind, the things that we left behind, but not in a sad way, it's a joyous way. I find food joyous. And of course, it's sad to have been cut off, and I'll never forgive the fact that I can't really write Arabic like I used to when I was 7, although I can still read it, but I can't properly write it, and that I've forgotten. So really, the last vestiges, the last traces of a culture, I think, is food. The food is the last thing that you have, and it is a joyous one. So I love it. Right, I think I'm going to plate it.
Right. And while you're doing that, Linda, just had a message from Lisette saying that she remembers people bringing in pots and pans to the picnics. And the drivers used to fan the kebab that Linda remembers. Is that right?
Yes. They used to fan. I remember now. Right, so I've got 2 here. You can't see. You will see once
Yeah, I think you have to tip the plate towards the
at the moment it's impossible.
Without losing the fish.
Yeah, but it's a bit difficult because it's very hot.
Yeah. Don't burn yourself.
No, I'll just do this, and 1 second. So if you want to do it with rice, I
Oh,
would do it like that.
that's a lovely little pot.
Yeah, and you see I've got a little bit of a sauce, so I will go like this, and then I'll put a little bit of coriander. And what I like is to put a bit of za'atar, but it's, as I said, it's not, it's optional.
That's za'atar, right.
Yeah, it's, I'll do another plate with the, now,
Oh, yes, very pretty. I like all the colors, all the different colors there.
So there is a bit of sauce, which is quite nice. That's because I put quite a lot of marinade. And also the juice from the tomatoes. So that's one, how we can, if I do,
I hope everyone's feeling hungry here.
can you see better like this?
Yes, it's sort of a bit closer. Yes, if you can tip it forward a little bit, that's even better. Yeah. Lovely.
Right, I'll have to put something against it. Wait a minute, I don't, maybe this. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm going to do another one with the mashed potato.
So message from Jay, he's on the verge of licking the screen.
My goodness, Jay, he loves his food then. That's nice to know.
He does. Jay, I hope you haven't had supper yet. Work up an appetite.
It would be interesting to know, Lynn, if anyone is doing it with me. I don't know. This was supposed to be a cook-along.
Right.
I'm not sure.
I would have to ask whoever's cooking to type a little message.
Yes.
I think if they can find time to get away from the oven and send me a message.
No?
There's nobody cooking? Ah, yes. Who's cooking? Is that Lisette? Yes, Lisette's cooking. Unmute. Just a minute. I'll just unmute you. Can you hear?
I'm not.
Whoops.
I'm not cooking right now, but I'm cooking the fish. Albert is getting it from the fishmonger now.
Lisa, really? Okay. So, and this is the other one. But you can see if you put a lot of tomatoes,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see, it becomes really lovely, and there is a sauce. Can you see with the onion? So this is really a lovely dish, and in fact, I shall take pictures, photos of them, and send them to you, Lynn, and you can post them on your site.
Right, that sounds absolutely lovely. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just.
What we need is the smell now.
Yeah. I'm just going to put this away, and then I'll be back in 2 ticks. Now, somebody did ask what sort of wine. I would drink a white dry wine with the fish.
And what wine have you chosen?
Well, it's Sauvignon Blanc, but I'm not going to drink it.
We may not get the next recipe if you do.
I used to, when I lived in and worked in France, I used to love drying muscadet with fish.
Mm. That's a slightly sweet.
No, no, it's very dry.
Oh, sorry, it's very dry. It just shows how much I know about wine.
No, but maybe some muscadets are sweet. I don't know, but the ones that I used to have were extremely dry
Mm.
and very cold, you know. And I used to go to Deauville. It was only an hour by car, and we used to sit in front of the sea. I can't remember the hotel. Hotel de, I don't know, forgot. And then we'd have wine, we'd have fish, and go back to Paris in the afternoon. It was amazing.
It sounds suitably decadent.
It was nice after a week's work, you know. It was like lovely sort of.
It's actually very, very, very elegant. I think we would have had fish and chips or something. It's
Which is nice.
Brighton Pier, Brighton Pier.
Which is nice too. That's well, you said what did we like when we came here? I know my father who knows London. I mean, he was here in the 30s when he was in university, but he took us to, what was it called? You know, the one in Lisson Grove, the fish and chip shop.
Oh yes, yes.
I forget. Anyway, and we loved that fish and chip shop, and we loved to eat out of newspaper with the vinegar. Oh, that was so nice.
Yes, I think that fish shop is still there. I hope
Yes, what is it called? I
By
forgot.
lockdown.
Sorry, I am not disappearing.
No, don't go. We need you. Seashells, that's right. Ida, thank you very much. Ida found the name. Seashells in Lisson Grove.
So can you see this?
Oh wow, that looks very pretty. Yes.
Can you see this? Now, these are what I call appetizers, or, you know, a starter. And this is what I'm going to be making now. And it's easy to do and very, very pretty for summer.
Mm-hmm. Looks absolutely gorgeous.
So again, I'm going to post those for you on your site. Now I'll bring all my... Next time I should have a sous chef. I do this. Right.
Right.
So what you need for this one . So what you need for this one is, I got this this smallish cucumber. The small ones, the Mediterranean ones, you can buy in Arab shops. They're great too, but we actually finished them last night, so, so I'm using this. And so we have olive oil, yes. And the za'atar. Okay. Sorry, there it is. So you get your cucumber and you do that. Now you see it wobbles, so you do that so that you can, now it doesn't wobble, you see?
Right, very clever.
Right, so then you have to wash it very well because you don't want to actually peel it. Right, so you start, can you see?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. You don't need to see me, you see what I'm doing, it's better. So you start by making these strips. And they're so, so pretty that you can actually make, oops, sorry everyone. You can actually make sort of a design on a plate.
I can see this is the artist in you,
Probably.
the designer in you.
But you don't need to do that if you don't want, you know, it's just a decoration. But what I want to show you is you're going to use, well, I'm going to use goat, very soft goat cheese. You can use any kind of cream cheese that's not too runny, because already the cucumber is quite wet. So you want something quite dry. So I would put a little bit. It's a bit like doing malfouf, if you know what malfouf is. It's a phyllo pastry with nuts inside, and then you roll them. So it's a little bit like that.
Mhm.
Right, so I should do it the other way, otherwise you won't see. Can you see?
Right, so you're rolling the cucumber strip around the goat's cheese, right?
Yeah, and putting it like this,
Yes.
standing. It's a really, really summer dish, so it's very fresh. And this is my take on the Mediterranean tzatziki, you know, the yogurt and garlic and cucumber salad that the Greeks do. So
Yeah.
I've sort of, it's a deconstruction. And if you think this gets in the way, just move it. Do you think anybody will do this?
I hope so.
It's quite a meditative thing, you know, it doesn't take long and it's so refreshing. And if you feel it's not enough, there isn't enough filling, you can just fill on top, see?
Right.
I'm going to take that off.
So Caroline says she'll definitely do it.
Lovely. And I'm doing an individual.
And Bethany, yeah.
Oh, lovely. I'm doing an individual plate, but if you have a buffet, you know, or a meze, like a meze table, you can have that and people can just pick.
Mm.
You can have it with the other dishes, and it's so pretty.
And Bethany is asking, do you add mint to it?
Yes, yes, mint will be everywhere. So I'll put mint here, and I'll put bits of garlic. So actually, when you're going to eat it, you mix it all up. It looks very, you know, very stiff like this, but you mix it all up as you eat it. You actually ruin it. You know, yes. So I'll just do this one, and then I think the plate is too small for such big things. Maybe like this, maybe like that. So now I will just add some tomato. Can you see, or do I need to tilt it?
No, we can see. Complementary colors.
Yes. You've learned your colours. Perhaps that's overpowering, like this. See? Then you get the mint. You see, once you have that as a starter, you can demolish it, you know, because you're going to have a sauce on top, and you mix everything together, and it all comes together. All the flavors come together, and it's quite delicious. So that's that. Now this is a new thing. I didn't put it on the ingredients, but I thought, why not? And it's Kalamata Olives.
Mm.
So that's quite nice.
Very Greek.
Yes, well, tzatziki is Greek, I suppose. So. And you can put even on top. Can you see?
Yes, absolutely. And a question from Hannah: what knife are you using? A particular knife or?
No, this was given to me. I don't know. It's a Japanese knife, I think. I don't know. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, it says konukachi. I think it's Japanese. It was given to me
That means anything to you, Hannah?
10 years ago, and I still use it. So now, then you go like that. You can also, for individual dishes, you know, as a starter, you can also put a little bit more, of the cheese, you know, the soft cheese. And now the za'atar.
We have a question. What brand of goat's cheese did you use? I don't know if we should be advertising any particular brand.
I went, this one is Waitrose. Waitrose British soft goat cheese.
Right, so it's their own brand, Waitrose' own brand.
Yes, yes. So there we are. Now, I want to show you something, so this would be of interest. Can you see these are like big towers, yes?
Oh, yes.
And these are so small, yes? These were done with the Mediterranean ones, which I finished just before we started the Zoom. So if you use this type of cucumber, you're going to get big ones, you know, like towers. So you can sleep them a bit, you know, you can do this. And let's see. And
what did you just put on there? Was it mint? Did you put some mint on top?
Yes, I did. These are the mint. I mean, you can put more mint, but you know, once you start eating and you scramble the whole thing together, you'll get the mint. Ah, I forgot the garlic. So the garlic, this is up to you, but I put tiny, can you see?
Tiny little
bits there,
garlic.
You know, maybe 3 or 4, so that it's suddenly you'll be biting on it and you go, oh, garlic. And there. And there we are, my dears. It's a bit of a mess. Let me just clear it so that you can see better. I do actually remember Lisette I remember passing her house. I remember where her parents lived. We used to go in the afternoon, we used to go in the evening really on a promenade with my parents, and we used to always pass her house.
Mm.
Do you remember that, Lisette?
I don't know where she's gone. I can see an empty room.
So there we are, our summer dishes.
Okay, isn't that beautiful? Absolute work of art.
And, you know, this one, as I said, was done with the small Mediterranean ones, and this one was by the bigger ones.
Right, and the red is tomatoes.
Tomato, yes. And you can see, you can put half a tomato on the big one, on the big plate. You know, it's a painterly thing, you know, it's rather pretty.
Absolutely lovely. Ashtidak, as they say. What did I just say to you, Linda?
Ashtidak, that means may your hands live on. Long live your hands. Long live your hands.
Long live your hands. And what would you say in return? What do you say?
I don't know. Ask somebody else.
Would you say awafi?
You say no. I think they say uidak. I think. Ask. Is Amanda there? She will tell you. Amanda,
I have to find her and unmute her.
Can she unmute herself?
Lawrence.
Oh no. Okay. I think they say uidak. That means and your hands or something.
Okay, right. And when do you say awafi?
You say when you've eaten or you're going to eat, or sometimes when you come out of the bath, right. You say awafi.
Okay, Linda. Well,
you know what it means, Lynn?
No.
Afia is health.
Mm.
So awafi, I suppose, with health.
Right. Okay.
So Amanda, what is she saying?
Yes, no, that's wonderful. I think Emil had a comment about the fish that was found in Iraq. Emil, are you there? I've unmuted you. Hello, Emil?
Yes, coming, I'm sorry. Here I am.
Right.
Just to make some comment regarding the fish. The fish that we have in Iraq is quite large. Not this size. Mm. It's at least 2 foot long, maybe 3. And, you know, people don't go and buy a fish. It would be for a whole group of people, for 5 or 6. Mm. So, and there are some which are quite big, for 5 feet long, you know? So it's a very big meal, especially if you have a party, group of people, you'd bring it. Mm-hmm. But this fish is only, the mazgoof is only done in Baghdad. Mm. You take the fish in Basra, for example, and there's plenty of fish there, you cannot have this mazgoof. When you put the sticks, you know, through the fish in Basra, it would collapse. The fish would collapse. It doesn't stay butterfly or something. It would just collapse. Whereas in Baghdad, it stays straight.
So how do you explain this difference between the fish in Basra?
It's a different type, different species.
A different species.
And you know, in Basra, you know, the one in Baghdad is the river from the river Tigris. But in Basra, you got both rivers coming, Tigris and Euphrates, coming together.
Right.
And this, you know, Shatt al-Arab is a very big river. It's totally different.
Right.
Sorry, different species. The bell ringing. So I come back to you. I got the bell ringing.
Oh, you got the bell. Is that from you? Yeah. Okay. Does he live in a church or something? Where do those bells come from? Anyway, that was really interesting. I think we have another memory here. What does that say?
Have you muted Linda, darling?
No, I haven't muted him.
I think you muted Linda.
Unmute. Say again, Linda, are you with us? Can't hear you.
Linda, I think you've muted yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to unmute it yourself, Linda.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's better. We can hear you now.
Yeah, I see. You mean I was talking to the wind, was I?
Only in the last few seconds.
I leave Linda for a few minutes, look off the computer and all goes wrong.
Anyway, no, that was absolutely wonderful, Linda. Thank you very much indeed for this great demonstration.
It's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure. What would be so interesting is that if anyone is going to make either of these dishes or both, would be lovely that they post them on your site.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
would be really nice.
So what I'll do is I'll post the recording on the Facebook page tomorrow, and do come and visit the Harif Facebook page and leave your comments. Tell us how it was when you tried out the fish, and you know, that would be wonderful.
Oh, that's nice. Yes, that's my book.
I'll just put back on the list of ingredients if anyone missed them, and if you do a screenshot, you can save them.
Thank you.
And there are a few other Lynn's events, so if you want to come and join those, come and join in.
I just wanted to tell those people who are new to Harif a little bit about us. We are the UK Association of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. And we try to raise awareness of the history and culture of these Jews. And although we have been doing a lot about the history, tonight you saw something of the culture and the food culture. We have many more lectures planned. Do come to future Zoom meetings. And if you haven't subscribed, all you have to do is go to the Harif website, www.harif.org, and there you can subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, and you'll be on our mailing list. So without further ado, I would like to thank Linda again for a wonderful demonstration. I wish you all
Pleasure. It was my pleasure to be here. I hope I've inspired somebody, some people.
So. I'm sure you have. From the comments we've had, I think you've inspired a lot of people. And thank you again. Thank you to everybody who joined us, and I hope to see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll unmute everyone now. If everyone wants to say things to everyone else, you can.
I see. Anybody want
chaos now. Everyone can talk.
A very good, tasteful shalom from Jerusalem.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel.
Ici, je fais de la cuisine.